Welcome to my channel. Please enjoy the video. Diff'rent Strokes star Todd Bridges did a sit-down with Dr. Oz, and he discussed on how he was molested in Hollywood. Dr. Oz claimed he would keep focus on pedophilia happening in Hollywood. During that sit-down, guys, Todd Bridges discussed his own molestation at the hands of his publicist, and he says also a family friend molested him as well when he was 11 years old. He first went public with the abuse back in 2010. He did a memoir, and that memoir was called Killing Willis from Diff'rent Strokes to the Mean Streets to Life I've Always Wanted. Bridges wrote the man who he identified as Ronald. And he says Ronald abused him on 4 occasions, including while he was starring on the show Diff'rent Strokes. He says Ronald performed oral sex on him multiple times. And this baby was only 11 years old. Todd Bridges expressed, when Ronald performed oral sex on him a second time, he thought he was gay. He said, I was very confused. I believed that I wasn't normal, and that made me feel even worse about myself than I ever had before. Bridges say he finally summoned the courage to stop Ronald during the 5th encounter in his car. And he said when he did that, Ronald became very angry at being rebuffed. Todd went on to say that it scared him, but he wasn't worried about that he would hurt him any more than he already had. As angry as I was, I wanted him to care about me for so long. It was hard for me to feel like I was disappointing him. Todd said this is how successfully Ronald had gotten into his brain. And obviously he was a total predator. Things reached a breaking point a week later when Ronald visited Bridges' family's home. Ronald walked into the room and looked as relaxed and as carefree as ever. As soon as he came in the door, I jumped up and attacked him. Nobody could believe it. I kept hitting him and fueled by all the same time with all of this shame and fury, and knocked his ass out. Todd fucked him up, y'all. Bridges said his mother initially was flummoxed when she came into the room and she started yelling, "Have you lost your mind?" But he says he believed she understood what was going on, noting, my mom had been molested as a child herself, so she knew what it did to her, and otherwise, I was this sweet, happy kid, and she knew I was different. He said he turned around and told his mother, he touched me. Bridges told his mother in fury, he touched me, Mom. Okay? It didn't take more than that. My mom ran out of the room and came back with a butcher knife. I felt such relief when I saw that damn knife, Todd Bridges stated. She wasn't mad at me. She was going to help me get free of Ronald. He would never be able to touch me again. See, I love this outcome, y'all. This is the best outcome. More black families need to be like this when their kids is getting touched and hurt. Todd Bridges' mother was a sexual molestation victim as a child. So she wasn't going to let anybody do this to her son. And guys, let me tell you, she put him in Hollywood. She had no idea what was going on, but she found out real quick. So in that Dr. Oz interview, Bridges went on to say, when the cast of the iconic sitcom Phil the Bicycle Man came out, it was a 2-episode story about pedophilia, and it came out in 1983. I was 3 years old. His co-stars weren't aware he'd been abused himself. I didn't let on to the material in the script upset me, he said in the book. It was a very hard week for me, and I pushed my feelings down hard and did what I had to do. See, Todd Bridges said that fellow pedophilia survivors like Corey Feldman, who appeared on Oz, and he was coming on there twice a month, he struggled to understand that the problem goes far beyond them and their abusers or even Hollywood. He says it's bigger than what you really think it is, he explained. You think it's just your little small section? He said, no, it's even bigger. Todd said when Diff'rent Strokes got canceled in 1986, he said he felt like his life was over. Soon after Todd's fall from that stardom began, this beloved TV star became hooked on crack cocaine and methamphetamines, and he started dealing drugs to support his addiction. See, his fame came quickly and turned infamy as reports of drug abuse and arrests made the headlines. Todd was arrested for felony assault, cocaine possession, and in 1989, he faced his most serious charge, attempted murder. Todd was accused of shooting a drug dealer 8 times after a cocaine binge, but after 2 trials and 9 months behind bars, he was acquitted. Then, in 1992, Todd was arrested yet again, but this time it was different. Instead of returning to jail, Todd entered a year-long drug rehabilitation program. To this day, many people still think of Todd as a poster child for child stars gone bad and remember him for his mistakes, but he says he turned his life around long ago. Todd has 2 children, and he has been clean and sober for more than 17 years. At home, Todd said he lived in fear of his father. Whenever the garage door would start to come open, that's when he got nervous because he knew my dad was going to be drunk, he says. We knew that he was going to be angry, and most times he was always angry at me. As a small child, Todd says he dreamed of being on television because he wanted to be free to express his emotions and be himself. I was unable to do that at home in front of my father, he stated. I was unable to be really happy or really be sad or really want to say what I want to say and felt how I wanted to feel. When Todd looks back at pictures and clips of his younger self, he says he feels a sense of sadness. The only time when I was happy was when I was on sets, he says. I was going through a lot at the time. I was really hurting. Todd says that Conrad Bain, the actor who played Mr. Drummond, his father on Diff'rent Strokes, was more of a dad to him than his own father was. But Todd said that his grooming processes started really early. The abuser bought Todd a bicycle and showered him with attention. He started setting me up for things by telling me that girls were no good and that you could feel the same way with a girl that you could with a guy. Then after that man gained Todd's trust and the trust of his parents, that's when the molestation began. He wrote a book, Killing Willis. Todd describes the first time. Pull your pants down, he said. I didn't want to lose everything he had given me, and so I did. He put his mouth on me. I got HARD. I didn't know where to look or how to feel. He said he squirmed against the back of the seat, and he kept going on and getting into it. I hoped it would be over fast. Then it happened. He says he came, and I was confused, and I was upset. I was like feeling really weird. I didn't think about whether it was right what that man had done to me. I held on to the fact that it felt good. Did you guys just hear what Todd Bridges said? Now, it's been longer than 30 years since the day, but Todd still has to overcome this with emotion. When discussing his abuse, he gets really emotional. And he said he's past it, but it still hurts him, he says. He said it ruined his life. He said he will spend the rest of his life trying to cover up about how he felt about it and all the pain he has suffered. And he says he really hated what happened to him. From ages 11 to 12, Todd says the man abused him 3 separate times. Then when he tried the 4th time, that's when Todd beat his ass down. Okay? See, it even got to the point he wanted to go places and I didn't want to go at that point because I knew something was wrong. It just didn't feel right, he says. I remember I was sitting on my living room couch in Baldwin Hills, California, and my mom was there. She came into the room and I just jumped on him. I wanted to kill the bastard at that point because I really felt like I was in such pain and I wanted to attack him. So once again, guys, he attacked him, okay? And his mother, Betty, she couldn't even get Todd up off of this man at that moment. She said she realized what happened. And she said, I've been molested myself as a child. And she told her son this at the time when this happened. And she said she knew something was wrong. And she told that man to leave her house at that particular time before he loses his life. Okay? And y'all, the man even refused to leave. He refused to leave Miss Betty's house. Miss Betty says when she came into the kitchen and came back with that knife, okay, she said, I forced him out of the house. And she said, I called Todd's father and told his father what happened. And she said that his father didn't believe her. Todd's father accused his son of lying about this abuse, y'all. That really destroyed me because my father was supposed to be my protector, Todd said. He didn't even protect me. He allowed this man to do this to me and didn't help me, he said. And this was my breaking point. And from that moment on, Todd says, well, he was hell-bent on getting even with his father and making him pay for how his accusations made him feel. Todd says he thought he was gay. Once again, these boys be thinking this. After being abused because his first and only sexual experience up until that point had been with a whole man. He said he didn't know. I didn't know what I was thinking. Well, I liked the way it felt, and maybe it's what I'm into, he said. See what I'm saying? He's being honest, and it does really confuse these young men. He said it felt good to him because you're a human, for one, and you were introduced to that. And then you're thinking you're gay because a man took it from you, but you had no consent. Okay? And then are they wrong when it feels good to them? Does that make them gay? So y'all have to think these babies are confused. These young black men are confused. However, let's continue. Then when he was like 12 and a half years old, Todd says he and a co-star, Dana Plato, began experimenting sexually. He said that proved to me that he liked girls because he liked what they were experimenting and doing. But from adolescence, Todd says his sexual abuse affected the way he treated women in his life. For years, he used and abused and discarded girlfriends, except one, he says, and that was Janet Jackson. But guys, do you just hear what he just said? He said how he treated women. So most men that were molested as boys, they treat women a different way. And this is facts. This is not alleged. Okay? Because I've seen this firsthand. Okay? So that's one of the symptoms to look out for as well. Okay, so let me stop spilling the beans on Willis and let him tell his story. So he says, there's only one girl in my life that I ever had feelings for, and I did not want to hurt her. Only one woman, and that was Janet Jackson, he says. He says he backed away from her because she was such a nice person. She was so good to me that I just couldn't see myself hurting her like that. Todd says he chose Janet to play his girlfriend on Diff'rent Strokes and that they dated for a short time in the 80s. So around this time, Todd was 15 or 16. He says he began experimenting with drugs at 15 and 16. Sounds like Tevin Campbell. I wouldn't do it on the set, he said. I would never do that. I always waited until the weekends. And so you don't just try to forget what I was going through. He says he wanted to do the drugs because it made him forget what he was going through. He says he was on the set and he felt such peace and safety when he was on set. I'm very upset with his father. Okay, so Todd, 2 years later, he was living in South Central. And that's when his downward spiral began. He said, I had no shoes on, no shirt, no money in my pocket, and I felt horrible about myself. I felt that my life was over. To support this vicious drug habit I had, Todd began dealing marijuana, speed, crack, and cocaine. He said, I wasn't Willis when I was over here. I was Todd Bridges, the drug dealer, he says. I was considered a pretty notorious character. Todd said that people used to recognize him on the street in the crack houses, but he would tell them to shut up and stay away to make people listen. Todd took extreme measures. He said he had a .45 caliber Mac 10. I used it to carry it on me, and I had a 9mm, and if I showed you it and it came outside of my waistband, you were shot. He said it was a matter of survival of the fittest. This is what Hollywood would do to your children, guys. Be careful if you're trying to put your kids in Hollywood. It's nothing but a dead-end street to me, and that's my opinion. So during this time, Todd says he also employed girls as drug dealers so he could have sex with them. He said he was a pimp in a lot of ways. I'm not happy saying this, but I was. That's my reality of it, he said, and I can't hide behind it. Whatever I've done wrong, I can say everything I did in depth of me being loaded. Okay? He came out and he told the truth. He spoke his truth. And I like the fact that he kicked that man's ass, okay? And his mother came out with that knife. But I don't like that the father said his own son was lying. What father would say that? A coward, in my opinion. So guys, Hollywood and what happened to Todd Bridges happens to a lot of young children, celebrities that go into Hollywood. They end up with these same symptoms. And most of all, the drug addiction and alcoholism and all of these sexual behaviors or erratic behaviors that they go through. And it sounds like Todd Bridges' mother really has her son's back and have had his back from the very beginning, because she was also a victim. And she was not going to let her child, her baby, no longer be victimized by this publicist in Hollywood that she and her husband trusted. Okay? And he groomed this child and got the parents to trust him. And then as soon as they turned their backs and closed their eyes, this is when he started hurting this baby. Okay, so thank goodness that his mother was there to support him and help him and let him kick that guy's ass. Okay, I applaud you, Mama Bridges. Okay, y'all. Now, y'all should remember that Diff'rent Strokes episode when that pedophile tried to molest Arnold and Dudley. It was one of those very special episodes with a very sensitive material disclaimer, and it was by Mr. Drummond. Basically, a middle-aged white bicycle shop owner named Mr. Horton is a pedo, and he uses gifts, tricks, and everything else to lure little boys into his shop. Then he shows them porn and magazines, porn cartoons, shows them pictures of him skimming dipping with kids, tell them it's okay to be nude while taking pictures, gives them wine and pizza, and wants them to keep everything a secret. Asks Dudley to take off his shirt to play Tarzan and takes pictures. Arnold gets busted when his family smells wine on his breath. He eventually tells on Mr. Horton and can't be around him anymore. Mr. Drummond called the cops. Dudley's dad is the cops, and he busts in his home and Dudley is there with his shirt off again. Says Mr. Horton gave him some drugs to relax. Pedo Horton is arrested and Dudley will be okay. It was a very good episode. The episode was to show kids about the tricks that pedos use to molest them. So I really believe that the show dedicated this episode to Todd Bridges and the situation that he was facing as a child and being on the show. And so this episode, in my opinion, was dedicated to Todd Bridges to show and make awareness about child molestation. Guys, let me know what you think, and thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Hey guys, thanks for watching my video. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell.